Okay, so welcome you to a wonderful new session that we have today. Your favorite teacher is back. I know. You love Alicia and Auntie Delani and Auntie Pete, me too, but your favorite teacher is back today. And my lesson that I'm going to share is the faith that creates reality. Now, I know you guys know I've done a message in the past about the power of faith, how faith, even as small as a mustard seed, as Jesus said, is so powerful that it can enable the most amazing miracles to happen. So I'm going to consider this part 2 of my faith sermon, if you will. And today's topic is the faith that creates reality. So it's almost step 2. So first you had the faith that was, I'm going to say the building block of your Christian journey, the faith, the belief, the hope itself. And that faith is part 1, where you build it, you develop it, you grow it. And now we're moving on to part 2, that you're building on your building blocks now. So now we're going to talk about how faith has the power to create reality, or to manipulate reality, or to make things happen in the spirit realm that would not otherwise happen. And I've got some pictures here of from Google. Thank goodness for Google. So I've got some pictures here. I'm sure these are characters that everyone recognizes. So who can tell me who is on the left corner? Who is the first picture, or who are the 2 people in the first picture, and what is the story? Anyone can tell me. Yeah, Alicia, Aaron, go ahead.
Abraham and God.
Perfect, thank you. And what is God telling Abraham?
I'll answer this. God is telling Abraham to count the stars in the sky, because that'll represent the that many descendants Abraham will have.
Amazing, that's perfect. Thank you, guys. That's the exact story. Abraham was told by God, one of the many promises, he was told that your descendants will be so numerous, they will be like the stars in the sky and like the sand grains on the beach. Because this guy, Abraham, his faith was what took him from being a father at 100 years old to one kid, right? The promised kid. He had another kid called Ishmael, but his one kid, Isaac, took 100 years to arrive. That was the faith journey. But how did he go from being one son's father to the father of many nations? That's a story we will come to. Who can tell me what the second picture is? Anybody? Hint, hint, is the crown on his head. It's not Jesus. It's not Jesus. Yes, Trevor?
Is it King David?
It is King David. And don't worry, there's not much of a story behind it other than this was a classic thing that King David did. He was always praying, especially before he went to war. He was always fighting with someone or the other, because that was what the Israelites loved to do back in the day. They were fighting the Philistines, the Amorites, the Amalekites, the Moabites, the Ammonites. I think I'm just making up ites at this point. Auntie Delani is nodding. But David always prayed before a fight so that he could go and be successful in the fight. And more often than not, he always won. And that was his faith that created his reality of success. And David was also great with faith because he was known in the Bible as a man after God's own heart. So he didn't just have faith in God, he loved God. That is a next level we will talk about another time. But that is King David, a great man of faith, just like his ancestor Abraham. But who can tell me what the third picture is? Hint, hint, they're related. This guy is related to Abraham. So he comes after Abraham, but he comes way before King David. So who is the guy? Yeah, Aaron?
Jacob.
Exactly. And what is the picture? What is the scene?
Angels walking in ladders, in stairs.
Exactly. And do you know how he got to be there, Aaron?
No.
And that's fine. You answered. That was 2 out of 3. Very well done. So about Jacob and the ladder of heaven. Let's forget about the ladder and the angels. They're lovely and on the side, right? But we're looking at our snoozing guy here, Jacob. He's probably hit his iPhone alarm but like 5 times already. And I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I wake up looking exactly like that. So relatable, relatable actions from Jacob. But Jacob is our special character in our story today. So without further ado, let's go into our faith story in the rest of the message. So I wanted to show a difference about how faith is portrayed in the Bible versus how we enact it, how we put it to work and practice it in our daily life. So without looking at the sun pictures first, let me take you to the left-hand corner. So faith in the Bible, these are a long list of Bible verses. I know it looks like a lot. It might be like I'm just seeing words and a bunch of numbers, but don't be worried. Don't be overwhelmed by it. This is a little system and an order I've created. You can take a picture if you want. I'll send you the picture later. This is my faith order. What I mean by that is every day, I'm trying to be good about it. I say these verses in order. Say it with me if you can. So this is the faith that I got from the Bible. I have to walk by faith and not by sight because I'm hoping to get the things I haven't seen, right? And I do that by prayer and by believing that I will receive everything I have prayed for. And how do I do that? What is the action? To confess with my mouth and believe in my heart that what I said will happen is going to happen. And no doubt. Faith does not go together with doubt. There has to be 0 doubt to have 100% faith. That faith as small as a mustard seed, because you believe in your heart and don't lean on your own understanding. Human senses are not good enough to understand the miraculous power of our God. We have to keep fighting the good fight of faith because we live in a community and a generation that think miracles are not real. Every situation is hopeless. Every disaster and every bad thing that happens in this world is in fact so predictable, right? We are just so used to hearing bad news that when even the smallest bit of good news happens, we're like, oh my gosh, it's such a big deal. But the Bible says we walk by faith, not by sight. And faith reminds us that it's something we can't see. I will keep praying. I will keep hoping. And I won't just say that something is going to happen. I will believe it's going to happen. I will believe that it will happen. I'm going to say it's going to happen and I'm going to see it. I'm going to see the end result. That, I don't know about you guys, but that's what I think faith is. That I'm not just going to confess that I'm going to see the result. I'm actually going to see the result. I'm actually going to see the end product. I'm going to see the thing I asked God for. I'm going to see it come to pass into action. I'm going to see the glory and the victory and the success in every beautiful thing, right? Just wave at me if you agree. And then that is the Bible that I like to follow when it comes to faith. But then I look at faith in my daily life. How do I practice it? I know you guys might be saying, well, I'm a student. How am I supposed to practice faith when I can barely keep up maybe in my studies or the exams are too overwhelming? What do you expect me to do, Andy? Do you expect me to preach and all of that? No. Faith as small as a mustard seed. If you're overwhelmed by your exam, you could say, Lord, I am going to pass. And you don't just say it because you're saying it for no reason, right? You're not just saying it like, God, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't happen also, I'm okay with it. No, faith is saying, Lord, I'm going to pass my exam. You said it, actually believe it. You're actually going to pass that exam because you worked hard. You sat the exam, you actually wrote it. And then that final bit, the final step, you get your exam paper, you get the result, and you see that you passed. I don't know about you, it gets me so excited when I see the result of what I prayed for. The result of my faith. When I see my mustard seed has grown into a plant, I love it and I rejoice because why? That result of faith reminds me that God is faithful. God delivered on his promise to me. So I want to show it to you guys in a real life example. Does everyone know the difference between the sun being in the sky and the sun shining? Everyone knows the sun, right? Yeah, just give me a wave. And everyone knows the sun is the biggest star in our solar system, correct? I'm looking at the scientists to prove me wrong. Okay, no one has proved me wrong. Great, my one fact is correct. So the whole point of the sun being in the sky is that we believe it, right? That's the faith. The sun is in the sky. It's so huge. It's never going to disappear. We know that it will rise in the morning. It's going to set when the evening time comes. We know it's going to carry on and carry on and carry on, right? We have faith that the sun will keep doing its job. But how do we remind ourselves that the sun is working? Sunlight and sunshine. I don't know why I put the difference of sunlight and sunshine. I think I meant to put one of the things with just sun. But what I was trying to say is we have faith that the sun is always in the sky. It's not going to come crashing down on us. But the sunlight and the sun shines on us. That's when we feel it, right? We feel the heat, we sweat, and we're just like, oh my gosh, I need another air conditioner. I don't know about you guys, but I grew up in Dubai. The sun was the most constant thing in life. You always talk about how hot it is in Dubai. But that's the faith. That's what it takes. The sun being in the sky versus the sun actually shining on me so I can feel it. There was a movie quote once in A Walk to Remember. I'm not sure if you guys have watched it, but the two characters were talking about their love story and they said, hers and my love. I remembered because even though I can't see it, I feel it. It's like the wind. He said, even when she's gone, when the wind blows, I remember her because that's what I love is like, I can't see it, but I can feel it. That's kind of how the faith principle works. You can't see it, but with that Holy Spirit within you, with that power of God in you, you have such a strong feeling, a conviction. You're convinced that it's going to work and it's going to happen. And if I got that from sunlight and sunshine, personally, I think I'm a genius. So I know you guys enjoy the examples, a daily life example that I can give. However, I like taking you to the Bible, showing you the very, very strong examples of how the Bible heroes and the heroines, they put their faith to action. So I'm going to show you 3 characters today, and you can jump in, you can tell me if you recognize any of them. So first things first, I'm going to ask, what is the scene going on here? Who's gonna tell me? You know the character, but what's the scene going on in the 2 pictures? Anybody? Yes, Aaron?
When Elijah, the first one is when Elijah praying to God.
Mm-hmm.
And the second one is when Elijah's walking to the altar.
That's great. Okay, that's perfect, Aaron. Thank you. I'm just going to add a little more detail to your perfect answer now. So the 2 images are correlated. Let me take you to the setting. We are in Israel in BC or AD. No, it can't be AD. Never mind. My timeline is going to mess up, so I'm not going to mention it. But we are in Israel in a time where the prophets of God, the one true living God, are being persecuted. So they're doing the only thing they know how to do best in a time of persecution is to go and hide. They were either in caves, in mountains. They were in caves, in mountains, in caves, whichever way. They were hiding because they were hiding for their lives. But there was this one dude. There's always one guy, isn't it? There's always one guy in history that God loves to pick and say, yeah, it's you. You're going to be the one to display my miracles to the world. So God picked Elijah, not Elisha. He's our banker. I'm talking about Elijah. He was such a strong man of God. He was such a strong man of faith. And his faith, he would not just, I'm not talking about just putting it into practice. I'm talking about he would say stuff and it would happen. And this is not by chance. This is not a coincidence. The power of faith that he had, he created reality with it. He prayed for rain, rain happened. He prayed for famine, famine happened. He prayed for food. It almost didn't happen, but that's a separate story that you have to read for yourselves. But the scene over here is now the prophets of Israel were hiding, right? They were scared. They said, if we talk about God, it's going to be bad news for us. So who was in charge at the time? The religion at the time was these cultish people, and they were called the prophets of Baal. If you don't know the story behind this, you can totally go read it in 1 Kings chapter 18. Now, the prophets of Baal, Baal is, by the way, just one of the many gods, false gods, if you will, that were worshipped at the time. So Baal in particular, if we break him down, right, if we completely break him down, he was a stone statue. And that's the most that I know about Baal. But his prophets, right, they were crazy. They were like worshiping him and loving him and just like, Baal is so amazing. And God in heaven was like, someone needs to check these people really quick, because last time I checked, Baal did not lead you out of Egypt. Baal did not save you all those times in the deserts when you were hungry, thirsty, being attacked by snakes, people, all of that stuff, right? Baal is not your God. But the people were hard-hearted, and they were like, okay, I guess today our God is Baal and we're going to worship him. But thank God for the strong man of God named Elijah. When everyone else went to hide, when all the other prophets of God went to hide, he didn't hide, and he didn't just wait there to be picked. The Bible specifically uses the word, and it says he went so far as to challenge the prophets of Baal. He wasn't just standing there waiting for them to pick on him and say, oh, you, what's your name? Elijah, what's your God? Oh yeah, prove it. No, he picked the fight. He was the agitator, right? He was the anarchist. He went and he challenged the prophets of Baal to bring fire down from heaven. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I can barely challenge like Trevin and my mom for the TV remote. How am I going up there challenging the prophets of Baal to bring down fire from heaven, right? I better have some strong faith. And look at the way he said it. He challenged them. When do you challenge someone? When you know you're going to win. You challenge them because maybe you've done it before and you know that you're going to win. You're so convinced, right? The victory is already yours. Now, I know in your daily lives, I'm not asking you guys to bring down fire from heaven and challenge anyone, okay? If you want, try. I've never tried it, but if you want, try. But that's the same motivation we need to have, that if anyone even doubted that we loved God, you'd be like, the earrings are coming off. I'm about to throw hands because my faith in God is so strong. I can't allow you to say that. Anyway, back to this, back to Elijah. He challenged them, right? So they were all getting together. As Aaron said, that's an altar. So the bottom picture is picture number 1, but picture number 2 is more exciting. So I put it on top. But look at the difference. You already know the result, but let me tell you the story. So that the bottom picture is how they started. Sacrifice the bull or the animal that he was going to put on the altar. He built that altar, by the way, right then and there. And do you see that thing over there? Who can tell me what the thing is that's just circling the altar? Anybody? You can call it anything you want. Yeah, Trevin?
Water?
Yeah, it is. It is water. But what's that thing? What is it in? Aaron, did you know? No, that's okay. Don't worry about it. So that thing is called a trough. A trough is like a deep, deep dug tunnel almost. Now, the thing about that is that water, sorry guys, but last time I checked, water is going to put out fire, right? I know I was bad in science at school, but water is going to put out that fire. Elijah, the crazy guy, he was not only like, I'm going to bring down fire from heaven, he really said, I'm going to up the difficulty. He really said, I'm going to add water just to make God's actions more amazing over here, right? He was adding the paprika to the miracle over here. And that was his faith. Look at that faith. I'm not just going to bring fire from heaven, but you're going to see this water disappear as well. He challenged the prophets above. And long story short, he was victorious. That kind of faith, God is not going to ignore you guys. God is always there. Even remember, the small mustard seed of faith is enough to bring amazing victory, to bring amazing miracles to happen. Now that's Elijah. Look at the difference between picture 1 and picture 2. Not only did that fire come down from heaven, that water was gone, that sacrifice was all consumed, and the prophets of Baal lost all their credibility. Why? Do not try to challenge God, basically. Now that's Elijah. He was, as I said, an agitator. He really went out for it. But now we're going to talk about a more quiet guy, a guy who in fact was so quiet that he fell asleep wherever possible, as we saw in picture number 1. So who remembers what that guy's name was? Who was the guy snoozing in the start of the presentation? Yes, Aaron.
Jacob.
Jacob, exactly. And how many sons did he have, Aaron? Aaron, any idea? No, that's okay. No worries. So Jacob was the famous guy who had 12 sons. Obviously, not while he was having the ladder dream in heaven. That was much, much, much after. So now I'm going to take you to even much, much more after. We're all the way in Genesis chapters 48 to 50. But let's start with 48 and 49 now. So the setting is we're in Egypt. We're in the land of Egypt, specifically in Goshen. Goshen was given to Jacob's tribe, his sons, his family, their pets, their cows, their donkeys, their goats, everyone you can think of related to Jacob. Pharaoh was like, okay, I like you guys. Joseph seems to like you guys, and Joseph is like my governor, right? My prime minister, whatever his title was. So Pharaoh said, I give you guys this land. And Jacob was like, wow, I should have come to Egypt much earlier than this. But the story we're focusing on is now Jacob. He's lived a long, long life, right? He's not as young as he was looking in picture number 1 at the start of the message. So now Jacob is on his deathbed. And he's a typical tradition, right? In the, in the culture of their days. Just before the father passes away, he has to bless his son. Usually that's the eldest son, but in this case, we're going to talk about his 12 sons, all of them together. So Jacob is on his deathbed and he said, I've got one last thing to tell you guys, right? Before I go to heaven. And Jacob, do you guys know the meaning of the name Jacob? Anybody? Anybody? Auntie Delani, do you know?
Isn't it a trickster?
Yeah, a trickster. What's another word for trickster? Starts with an L. Starts with an L or starts with a D. Could be 2 words.
Alicia, go on.
I think a deceiver or liar.
Thank you. That's perfect. That's literally both the words. Auntie Delani, come on. But well done. Well done. So Jacob, as we all know, is a liar. He's a trickster. He's a deceiver. We're not going to get into his history, but you guys can read in your own time. But think of this, right? He was a deceiver, or that's what his name meant. He took his brother's, excuse me, my throat. He took his brother's birthright from Esau. Again, you can read the story in your own time. That trickster, the same trickster who was snoozing in picture number 1, he is giving 2 predictions of profound faith towards the end of his life. Obviously, he waited till he was on his deathbed to give some great, great words of inspiration. But let's look at prediction number 1, right? So Genesis 49 was 1. He was saying, gather around so I can tell you what will happen in days to come. Now, that sounds like fortune telling, but I'm very excited. I want to know what he is about to warn me about, right? In the future. That's picture number 1. He's gathering his sons, he's blessing them, putting his hand on them like that. Number 1 prediction that he made, God would protect the Israelites for many years to come. No matter how long it took, he would ultimately lead them back to the land he had planned for them, that he had set for them. So Jacob said in Genesis 48 verse 21, I'm about to die, but God will be with you and take you back to the land of your fathers. Does that sound familiar to anyone? The land of your fathers? It sounds familiar because now Jacob as a father, his faith, that unwavering faith, God is going to fulfill his promises in my life. I'm going to make you a great nation of people, like stars in the sky. You can't even count it, but it's going to be amazing. That same faith that Jacob had, he passed it on to his sons. And we love one of his sons, right? His favorite son is Joseph. Joseph repeated nearly word to word of what Jacob said in Genesis 48. Joseph was now on his deathbed in Genesis 50. And he said, I'm about to die, but God will surely come to your aid and take you up out of this land to the land he promised on oath to your fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and now because Jacob is gone, Jacob. I don't know about you guys, but my mind is blown. How did these 2 people know that we were going to come to the big exodus that you guys can see in the second picture? That's Moses. That's the whole tribe of Israel. And there were so many. How did we start with one guy named Abraham who didn't have a child until he was like 100 years old? How have we basically come to a country of people? That's a lot of kids. That's a lot of childcare money right there. But look at their predictions. They were so convinced of the faith that they had in God. They created the reality. And the best part was, just before Joseph died, he said, and when you leave, when you're leaving, when God is taking you out of this land to the promised land, you're going to carry my bones and you're going to go. That's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. You guys can watch the movie as well, but they carried the bones of Joseph when they were going to the promised land. Now, if that's not faith, I don't know what it is. But my last person, of course, I love my strong female Bible characters because they did some great things as well. And this is how we get to Ruth. But Ruth, before we just start her story, I'm going to talk about Jacob's second prediction that she is connected to. So Jacob, while he was, still on his deathbed, he said in Genesis 49, verse 8 to 11, the scepter will not depart from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from between his feet, until he to whom it belongs shall come, and the obedience of the nations shall be his. The line of Judah. Judah was, which number of son was Judah of the 12 boys? Who knows? Come on, Auntie Delani, you have to know this one.
I think it's the 4th one.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. So if we think about their time, right, in their culture, it was the eldest son. That eldest son was like the big shot in the family, right? He would get all the glory. He'd get all the gals. Yep. He'd get all the father's like first blessings because he's my first son, the pride of my life and all of that. Judah is the fourth kid, as Auntie Delani said. He's not even the eldest one. He's not the big shot of the family. But for some reason, Jacob is like, you, you, Judah, I'm talking to you. Your line, your descendants are going to be great. And they are going to stay great until the promised one comes. Oh my goodness, Jacob's faith was so strong. He believed in the promise that God gave his forefather Abraham. He was like, you're going to have one son, then you're going to have twins, and then you're going to have 12 kids. This is not one person, by the way. This is one person after the other, if you know the Bible stories. So from Jacob's line, he picked Judah. We love Joseph, right? We love Joseph, but he's bones right now. But you got Judah and his family. Judah was known as a roaring lion. Who remembers Pastor Trevor's message from last week? The roaring lion, right? Everyone is lunch. No one compares to the lion. Thank you, Dion. Yes, everyone becomes lunch for the lion. Now, Judah, it says, the scepter will not depart from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from between his feet. When I read that, I thought king. The kings of Israel are going to come from the tribe of Judah. But who can tell me who was the first king of Israel? Because he was not from the tribe of Judah. Who was the first king, guys? Anybody? He turned a bit crazy towards the end of his life. Yeah, Dion?
Is it Saul?
Exactly. Thank you. It is Saul. Now, the funny thing about Saul is he was from the tribe of Benjamin. And believe me, it's not like he was too controversial, right? When he started, but he never asked to be king. He was appointed by the prophet Samuel, without getting too much into the story. But remember Jacob's prediction, guys. The scepter will not depart from Judah. The king of Israel it sounds like a fictional tale, right? It sounds like a fairy tale. The chosen king will come in the future. It's like the line of every movie. The chosen one is going to come from here and not from there. The chosen king of Israel will come from the line of Judah. Who knows Ruth, right? Everybody knows Ruth. She was not originally in our country over here. She was a foreigner from this land called Moab. And she was only married into this Israelite family, but even that husband died. Now, if you see her in the bottom picture, that's her mother-in-law, Naomi. Naomi was like, I'm so sad. My life is over. I'm just going to go back to, Canaan, to Israel, and try to live my days until I die. And Ruth, look at Ruth. She was a foreigner. She wasn't even born to know God, right? She knew other gods. She knew the fake gods of Moab. But she said, I want a second chance in life. And she took that second chance in life. She found a husband who then they had a son together, and then he had a son, and then he had a son who went on to be King David of Israel, the king from the tribe of Judah. The scepter will not depart from Judah. I know it sounds mind-blowing. I was very mind-blown, but that faith, that original faith is so profound, is so strong. And it doesn't stop there. We have a great story that starts with David, right? The scepter will not depart from Judah. He will be the ruler until he to whom it belongs shall come, and the obedience of the nations shall be his. That King David, that same King David, his long, a lot of generations in between descendant, was this man called Joseph. Joseph was your basic average Joe. Yeah, he's an average Joe. He's a carpenter. He was then the husband of Mary, of the mother of this son called Jesus. Did you guys understand that? That from David's line came Jesus Christ. Does everyone agree with me when I say the chosen one, the one to whom one day the kingship would come is Jesus Christ. That was, I know it's a lot of generations in between. It's a lot of generations. So let me show it to you in this order. The family tree of Jesus, you can read that in your own time. But look at where we begin. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Judah. A lot of people in between. We get to Boaz, right? Or Boaz, as you can see. He was a husband of Ruth. And from there, you get David. He was King David. Many generations later, and you have Jesus. Jesus is known, just like a message from last week, Lamb of God and the Lion of the tribe of Judah. That was an original prediction of faith, an original act of faith by Jacob when he said, I'm telling you two things. God will not just set you free from this land of Egypt. He's also going to give you the chosen one, the Messiah. Jacob wasn't like, I'm going to tell you his name and everything. I'm going to tell you exactly the year it's going to happen. I'm going to tell you the day that Jesus is going to be born. No, he didn't say all of that. He just acted in faith and he created the reality. Look at how many generations it took to make that faith a reality, right? It's not easy. It's just like in our daily lives. It's not easy. We want to say something one day and the next 5 seconds, we want the action, right? We want the result. I'm like that. I'm definitely like that. I'm always like, Lord, please let me have this lunch today. And then I go down to the kitchen and my mom is saying, well, if you really want it, you're going to make it yourself. I was like, God, so much for my confession of faith. But on a more serious note, that is faith. Even if it takes time, it just takes the mustard seed of faith to create the reality. I'm saying it because I'm believing it, because I know it's going to happen. And the best part is I will see my end result. I will see it happen. I will see the success and I will give glory to God. Now, I know that's been a very long message. I've taken quite a bit of your time today, but you've done so well to answer all of my questions. And we've gone through a lot of Bible characters, and we've gone through a very complicated family history, but we've come here to the message summary now. So I'm going to leave you guys with the memory verse that I chose for today. It's 1 Timothy 6 verse 12, which is, fight the good fight of faith, lay hold on eternal life. I love that verse because it reminds me that I'm not just having faith for the sake of having it. I'm not just fooling around with my faith. No, I'm keeping hold of faith in a faithless generation. I'm keeping hold of the hope I have in Jesus in a hopeless world. Jesus is my light in a very, very dark world and a time and a generation. If he's my hope and my light, I'm doing it for a reason. Not just for myself. I don't want to just be faithful for myself. I want to inspire other people. My faith should be able to show other people how to have that faith as well. And again, even if it starts so small, it's going to create something so big and miraculous. And I think that's great. So guys, keep fighting the good fight of faith, whether you do it from your room, over a Zoom call, in your church, in your school, in your workplace, wherever you go in this world, keep fighting the good fight of faith because you are being faithful in a God who's never going to let you down, like we've learned from all the Bible characters. So I hope you've enjoyed this message and hope you'll be back for more if you're not already tired of me, but keep fighting the good fight of faith. Thank you.